All right, so let's try and get something done today. This has been something I've wanted to throw together since just before the winter. I picked up all the stuff and then we went into a deep freeze and the house wasn't heated, so I didn't want to hook it all up and have everything just go kaplooey. So I just dug it out now. I'm going to get it hooked up because every time I fill the camper, I'm just running like one of the little cylinder cartridges to filter the water going into the camper that you use at like a campground or something. And I'd like to have a little more filtration in there. So I got this all set up in the camper one day and it's just been sitting waiting. So today is the day and I'll go over it roughly, and I'm sure my plumber is going to want to change it all. This is, in my opinion, this is all temporary. So like right now I have no pressure switch. So like I can't use a pressure washer or I can't use a regular garden sprayer on the end of the hose because I can't let the pressure back up. So this has a pressure switch in it and also the filter and all that jazz. I still want to flush out the well. The well casing has some rust on it and stuff, so I want to get a chimney sweep brush, brush that, flush it through, rinse it out, and go through that whole process. But just haven't made the time to deal with it because I got to dig up the ground, and when it comes time for that, I want to dig up the ground. I want to do that, and then I want to do a pitless adapter in there and extend the casing up, so if I want to do any flushing or cleaning or add any chemicals to the well, anything like that, have access, because right now it's 4 feet underground. So that's going to be a whole thing in itself. That's not necessarily important at the moment, but getting this tank in with a pressure switch is key, and then a bigger filter setup, so I'm not buying those tiny little ones at home, Walmart every time. So, like I said, I'm sure my plumber's going to want to change it all. I'm sure I did things wrong, but this is the way I'm setting it up for right now, and there's a couple of things I'm doing differently. So, I got a check valve I'm putting in line, just in case if the check valve in the pump itself isn't working properly, whatever. I figure it can't hurt to have an extra check valve. Plus, the plastic line going out to the well in the basement isn't incredibly long. So I'd have to like keep this tucked in the corner. So I figure that can be my connection point where I'd put in a male-to-male adapter anyway to extend it further. So I'll put that over near the wall, and then it'll come into here, and then you have your drain valve here, and then I got a shut-off valve here so I can shut off pressure to this to change the filters. And then this is funky, but the other good thing with this is I can shut this valve off. I could hook a hose to this and do a full flush of the system without it really getting into anything, because it's going to come in this line and come right out here and go out the hose. But the main way it's going to be set up is that line will hook to the well, that will hook to there, this will come out, this will hook up to here, this will be mounted up on the wall in the basement. And then I have a whole contraption here. So this is what you normally have. I don't know how common this is, but this is I think they call it a spin down filter with a drain, and it's just a steel screen that you just rinse out. So I figured that would be a good preliminary filtering before it gets into here in the meantime, because I can just spin that off, rinse it off, put it right back together. I don't have to order new filters every time for whatever that might catch. But if you look, I got this whole setup here. This is the inlet side, that's the outlet side. And I'm just gonna put one spigot on the outside of the house like so. And I don't need to filter the water if I'm washing the car, hosing down the driveway, hosing down the car trailer, pressure washing something, whatever. It doesn't need to come through the filters. So I figured if I set it up like this with that hooked into there, coming out the side of the house, I can have one hose hooked to it. And if I want, I can leave this one shut and open this one, and then the water will come right through without hitting any of the filters and come out, and I can just run the well out if I want to like flush it out a little bit, or if I'm pressure washing something or washing the cars, nothing will go through the filter. because that'll be the straight line up there, and that's shut off so it can't get through here. And then if I want to like fill the camper, I can shut this valve and open this valve, and then everything will deadhead there, so it'll have to go through this filter, this filter, this filter, come out, go up, and go out to filter the water at the camper. And again, I'm sure this stuff that's not going to be up to code or whatever, this is just temporary. I don't care if I waste all this. This was a cheap investment. It's not a lot of money sitting here. And when I'm done with it, if the plumber wants to replace all of it, if none of it's any good, then I could put it on Facebook Marketplace and sell it for half price of what I have into it. And somebody can set up a well at their camp or whatever. It'll be handy for somebody. It won't just be junk. So with all that said, let's get down the basement. Let's see where we got to set this up, because this will probably go, this is going to be half filled with water, so it's going to get heavy. This will be set up on some sort of cinder blocks or something. And then that, I'll have to drop down a couple of studs from the floor joist down to hang that on the wall. So with all that said, let's get to work. All right, so running into a little bit of a dilemma. I totally wasn't thinking about how close that pipe comes out from the foundation over there, because that's coming out just about the midpoint of this. So to get this over there, I'd at least need a 45 here, or I could do a stub, a 90 and another 90, and do the check valve in the middle of it. And then that'll take all the tension off. Because one thing I don't like is tension. So I'll probably have to go chase down two 90s that I can put in line with that. And I wanted it over a little further so there was more room over here. But this is where the sump pump goes and where the sump pump dumps out. And I could move this all the way to the other side over there and have all the room in the world, but then I'm going to have a random water pipe out in the middle of nowhere going over to it. So I think it's better move it over to the corner, and with that moved over, there's enough room for this to go beside that outlet, because this side here connects to right there, so that would leave that straight in line with that. And if you look, I left that at an angle, and I left that at an angle. So this will be a straight shot at an angle up to about here. And so one thing, I may want to hang a couple of studs down, put a crossbar, and mount this out on the stud. That way there, if I ever want to frame the basement out for walls someday in the future, this is already spaced out. I don't have to work around it. Kind of like I already did over here for the electric panel. I mounted some studs, just hung them down, mounted them off the framing there, and that's nice and well, outside, noisy door. That's rock solid. So I may do the same thing over there. But the dilemma is I need two 45s for over there. I mean, two 90s to get that over there now. Oh boy. Well, looks like it's going to be a run to the local hardware store. Hopefully, I bet you Clem's would probably have it. They're not far up the street, because I don't want to go all the way to Home Depot. Clem's is probably a little more money, but they're nice and close. So I think I'm going to go chase those, then I'll come back. That time I got to feed Riley, and then I'll cut a couple of studs probably and hang them. I'm on the fence. I'll decide while I'm going if I'm just going to mount that to the foundation with just a couple of anchor bolts or stud it down. I should stud it down. We'll decide shortly. All right. Well, back with my fittings, but before I turn the camera on, I just cut a couple of pieces of 48-inch piece of 2x4 and then some pressure treated to space it off the wall. So that'll bump into the wall there and there, so that's pressure treated. These uprights are regular wood. They'll just slide between those floor joists, screw to each one, and that should be plenty for it to just levitate up there. Because that filter setup isn't very heavy, even with water in it. Maybe it can hold 2 gallons. So that should be fine. And then if I want, I can put anchors in those crossovers of the pressure treated. I could actually anchor that to the foundation later. But I figured if I do this setup later on, if I want to build out these walls, I could strap the walls with some pressure treated and then build them as floating walls, non-pressure treated, around the whole basement. But most likely that'll never happen. But I may do like an area where I want to put pegboard or something like that. So just want to prep for anything like that. So anyway, I'm going to get that up and then I'll get the filter set up, and then we'll start plumbing. See what happens. All right, so it's all plumbed in, and I still have to wire the pressure switch in. That's the critical point. And then I got to plumb up and out, and I got to put a spigot on the outside of the house. So I got to decide where I'm going to put that spigot. Am I just putting it right out this front wall for right now, or out the corner wall? So I got to decide that. But for right now, I just want to see if this thing's holding some pressure, and see the pressure gauge come up and see that there's no leaks. I hope. So I'll leave you guys on regular record and you can see if this thing just turns into a geyser everywhere. So I left the switch on upstairs, and all right, so that's off, that's open. That's shut tank, and I think this is it. Nope, this is it. There we go. Alright, stuff's filling up. And what was that noise? Did I just overpressurize it? Max pressure 75. I don't know how high it went. And I do have some leaks. Okay, so one's coming right out of there. One's coming out of there. I wasn't paying attention to the gauge like I should have. I was looking at those filling up, wondering kind of why they were filling up with no venting out the other side. Okay, so we got one leak right here. That's a bummer. And this pressure valve here is leaking. Does that mean I have too much pressure in there? Give me off some pressure, shall we? Okay, so we're definitely bleeding off a lot of air pressure. Let's try it again, shall we? This one? Let's see if we can get water all the way up the top. And just kind of make a mess up here. There we go, we got some there. A little more. Oh, taking a shower. Okay. So we're good there, we're good there. And pushing water out here. Okay. So everything else is holding pressure. I got a little leak right there. Nothing there. Yeah, so a little coming out of the overpressure relief and a little bit out of that guy. That's a little bit of a bummer. But none of the lines blew off. And I don't know what kind of pressure we're supposed to be running at. Let's see. Not sure. I hear something gurgling though. Oh, tiny leak right there too. Well, I never claimed to be a plumber, and for one, that is a cheap Amazon special that I wasn't overly happy with anyway. But I don't need to keep this pressurized. I just need to be able to turn this on and be able to run the pressure washer without everything over pressurizing and stuff like that. And I want to filter the water going out to the camper. So with that said, I'm still filling the camper. I'm not going to run off line pressure. So those couple little drips that has doesn't bother me at the moment. And like I previously mentioned, the plumber might want to change every bit of this anyway. I'm just trying to function a little more like a human being here while I'm getting through everything else. Because like right now, even just trying to like wash my car or truck, pollen, trees, everything is just hammering right now. And I literally have to like prop the hose somewhere and run over, reach in the window, flip on the switch for the water pressure, and then run over and use the hose, and then prop it somewhere while it's spraying like a geyser, and run over and shut the switch off. So to be able to just flip the switch on and know I have the pressure switch shutting off and on as it needs, and I can actually use a hose end and let it off and let it stop the water flow, will be a substantial improvement in life. So I'm just going to kind of plan this out now and figure out where I'm going to put that silcock on the outside, and we'll get that in and plumbed. And then we're back up and functioning. That'll be a good day. All right, so next step. I wired in the pressure switch. I didn't put the lid back on it yet. Let's turn it on and see if it pressurizes and shuts off, and then bleed it down, see if it kicks back on at the right pressures. I think it's like 30 to 50 or 30 to 60, somewhere, or 40 to, yeah, I think it's 30 to 50 or 40 to 60. There's a 20 pound pressure differential of when it shuts off and comes back on. So let's see if I wired it right. Nerve-wracking. Yeah. So that went up to 50, shut off at 40. Still on. It seemed like it came on and stayed on because that pressure kept climbing even though I was relieving it. And that leak out of that blow-up valve is substantially more. Well, I will say the storage tank is doing its job, because this has a rubber diaphragm in it with air pressure on the back side. So the well pump comes on. The reason why you run this is the well pump comes on, it pressurizes it and expands that bladder up into the air chamber here with some air pressure on the back side of it. So it'll pre-charge it with pressure. And then when the pump shuts off, that is pushing down, creating more pressure as it bleeds down. It keeps the pressure up, so the pump comes on and off less often. So that's definitely working because I'm still bleeding this thing down, and like it's at 55 right now. That's how long it took to go down 5 psi. That's huge. That is awesome. So that guy is doing his job. I don't think the pressure switch is working right, because I think it's 30 to 50. It shouldn't have went over 50. And that thing went up to probably 60. Now, the switch is off. The only reason why I'm touching this. That should be down. Disconnected, I think. Yeah, that should have popped backwards at this point as it brought up the pressure. So let's see, we're at 50. She's running. Yeah, she came up to 60. That's 65 and it didn't shut off. That was my own fault. That's my own fault. I'll fix it. Actually, no. That wasn't my own fault. I wired it right. I thought I wired it wrong. But each side has two terminals and it has a connector that comes up and bridges the two. So you have two blacks on one side, two whites on the other. So you have your line side coming in and you can do the two next to each other, and then the next one comes in and you do like your white and your black jumping over across each other. So it's wired right. That thing is just not relieving right. So I gotta see if there's an adjustment on it, which they are adjustable, but they're supposed to be adjusted right out of the box. Yeah, so these should be, that should be popping back like that and staying there, and it's not. So, okay. So that tells me I gotta back this adjustment off here, I think, to make that lighter. What are the chances? Is it 5/16? Can I have it here? Oh, it is. Yeah, it's not popping up on its own. There we go. But that's up at 60 psi. I'm gonna back this thing way off. What's the secondary one over there? Okay, so let's see. I wish it didn't take so much to bleed off to get the pressure down right now. The good thing is I do want to rinse the whole basement out. I got a pump to put over there to pump it up. So this water flying around is no big deal. Now we don't want that to click back on until we're down to at least 40, at highest 40, but ideally 30. Down to 40. So you guys might even be able to see or hear that thing click in when it clicks in. Down to 38. Oh, there we go. That kicked back on when it reached 30, but then the gauge dropped. Okay. So I think we're pretty close to what we need. Let's see here. I'll stand outside of the puddle while we turn it on. And that is 40, 45, creeping on 50. That's 50 and it's not releasing yet. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that. Tip you guys on your side here a little bit. But I said I wanted it to kick off at 50. We're literally 51 and it crept back to 50. That's not bad for a first just winging it adjustment. All right, so that's good. So now it's kicking on and off. And I just got a couple of leaks. What's a couple of leaks amongst friends, right? All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna plumb in the water line and the spigot. I think I'm gonna send it out the front wall. So let's get that put in. All right, well, none of this is very satisfying. It's almost functional. Everything I have for the pecs has the brass crimp rings around them. And there's multiple different setups. And it might not even be pecs, I think it's pecs. But anyway, it takes the brass rings that you crimp on with a special pair of pliers that I have upstairs. All I have is the 3/4 inch ones. These are the 1/2 inch ones going up to that, fitting up to the spigot outside. In the pile of stuff, I randomly had some that looked like hose clamps for like axle boots, where they have like a little piece that comes up and then you crimp that and it pulls the whole thing together just by crimping the little teeth into that thing. And I had a cheapy pair of pliers. Those pliers, you'd have to be Godzilla to use those things. I had to put 2 lengths of pipe right there on them to get them to crimp. And they leak. So yeah, as you can see, that guy's leaking out of there now. But that's that crimp thing. And these are the brass rings that you typically crimp on this setup. And I didn't have them. So I was like, oh, well, those are clamps. This is temporary. Nope, both of them leak. That one leaks and that one leaks. So I gotta go give Riley some attention anyway, so I'm gonna go meet up and see if we can walk Timber and Riley together and give them some attention. And on my way leaving there, I'll go by Home Depot and get the right crimp rings, and I'll cut that off and recrimp that tomorrow. And there's a couple other little leaks. I'm really not concerned with them for how little I need to use the system right now. And like I said, this system's probably not going to stay here anyway. So anyway, it was something. It was progress today. It was getting extra fittings that I didn't know I needed, getting this all plumbed in, and it's almost there. It's like so close. So if I had those 2 rings, we'd be functional at the moment. But worst case scenario, I can still screw the hose on the spigot right down there and leave that valve shut up top there so it's not pressurizing that line that's leaking really bad, and I can run it that way, which would be fine. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go take care of Riley. I will check back in tomorrow. I'll make tomorrow's video into this one. There's no need to make a whole day's checkup on just this little. So we'll check back in tomorrow with tidying this up a little bit and getting this finalized for now, and then we'll get on to something else. All right, so back at it. Went and walked Riley and Timber last night, and then I went to Home Depot and I got the right crimp pieces for this other line. And where this is all temporary, don't give me any crap for that thing just bowing around and bananaing over there. Figure, why waste a crimp and then 2 more crimps and then 2 more crimps and 2 more crimps to do a 90, a 90, and a 90 down to there when this is all temporary. But on a positive side, even with the little bit of leaks that it does have, it's still holding 45 pounds of pressure from last night. And as of last night, it was holding 50 pounds of pressure. So it only went down 5 pounds since, that was probably about 4:30 yesterday. And it's probably about 11 o'clock the next day. So that's a pretty good run of, that's over 12 hours, but whatever. I won't do the math in my head right now because my head's all over the place. But anyway, that's pretty good. So that's not a substantial leak. In the meantime, while we're just running this for washing cars, filling the camper, and hosing out, because I also want to be able to hose out the whole basement and whatnot. So that's another reason of getting this done. So I'm not running over, flipping the circuit breaker, running the hose at full force, running over, shutting it off, putting the hose down. I can have the hose there and just spray it like a normal human being. Part of the reason why I want to rinse the basement out is there is a sump pump location, but I figure I don't know if that is plugged up out there or anything else. So I just got a cheapy garden hose hookup, like trash pump, that I'm gonna dangle, float in that hole, strap it up there, just let it hang. I can send the hose outside, way to the far side of the yard, because we're holding water back here because there's no gutters, the bulkhead door leaks, there's no gutters and everything. So all the rain is just coming down and flooding in the windows and stuff. And apparently it's sealed up pretty well because this water is just staying here. And I want to get this all flushed and rinsed out of here because all these little speckles and stuff everywhere, and the darkness in this corner and all that, I believe that's remnants of porcupine poop. So I'm really looking forward to rinsing down the walls down here, rinsing down the floor, and getting it all flushed out, because at that point I can put up some of my shelving down here and I can stop putting things down here out of the way, extra wood, extra supplies, and not have it all in the central area upstairs. And like I picked up a few extra wheels and stuff like that for some of the project cars. I can stack those down here and whatnot. So getting this all cleaned up is very important at the moment for me to be able to just start using this space to make life a little more convenient and comfortable and keep things safer and out of the weather and all that jazz. And basically I just got a little pile of scrap metal I gotta throw out of here left, 1 trash can of stuff, and this thing. I gotta decide what I'm doing with this. But once I throw that outside and rinse the floor down, this is a lot of storage. And it'll smell better, which compared to what it was, it doesn't smell bad at all. All right, enough of that. Let's get this hose on. Let's see if we can get this to seal up, hold tight, up there anyway. There's those other leaks I'm not concerned with. And because I gotta fill the camper, I need a shower. It's out of water. Much more better. All rooted a little better and got the proper crimps on the ends and no leak. No leak. Both of those spots were leaking like a sieve with those other silly crimp style ends. These style. But I was using this BS tool that's like, this is like the $12 tool to install it, where there are probably literally $150 tools to crimp those. So it's probably because of this. But either way, I got the right tool for the copper crimps that I put on there, and now it's right. So now I'm gonna go hook up the hose so it's not running through the basement window and everything now. It'll actually be hooked up to the spigot. Then I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna watch everything cycle on, off, make sure everything's working properly, where that pressure switch was adjusted wrong to begin with. Just want to make sure it keeps coming back on at the right pressures and things keep flowing and sounding good and no surprises. Let's keep moving. Look at me. I can just run a garden hose and let it shut off without wondering if I'm gonna blow the pump in the well or anything else. I can literally work like a normal human being. You know how luxurious this is. On, off, on, off. You have no idea the hassle of propping this thing somewhere so it's like trying to spray, because I had to zip tie this handle wide open when I wanted to use this sprayer, or just wide open out the end of the hose. Just prop it somewhere, go running in the window, shut the switch off, and like get part of the car washed, and then run all the way back over, flip it back on, grab the hose, rinse it some, run back over, shut it off, wash a little more of the car. Game changer. See, like, the advantage of going through hell in life and putting yourself through some of the torture I put myself through, like, you don't really realize how precious this is. Like, I could probably sit out here for 2 hours, like, drinking a beer and just spraying this right now. So sometimes going through tough times makes you appreciate the simple things in life. So, all right. So, well, now I'm just gonna, that'll be it for this section of the video anyway. And I'm gonna work on draining the camper, filling the camper, walking Riley, and all that stuff. Not sure if I'm dropping off Riley tonight or tomorrow. That'll decide if I'm doing any other work today. So there'll probably still be more on the end of this video, so hang tight just a minute. Well, I was out back mowing today around the yard, and Claire's been missing for quite a while now. And I don't know how long she's been back, because I don't use my back door pretty much at all. And the welcome sign ended up out here, and I was riding by, I was like, why is the welcome sign over there? What's all over it? So that's what I saw. I saw the sign first, because that's against white. Didn't even see Claire. Apparently, she's torturing that little girl with spitballs. Fortunately, she doesn't have very good aim. But Claire's back. At least she's just playing practical jokes and nothing really scary. That's a win, right? Whatever.